Well, you guys voted, and in a complete landslide victory, the part that I'm going to be uploading first is top 10 anime girls that should be incarcerated. That comes as a surprise to me because that was the part that I was really most worried about how it would be received, but I guess you guys really liked it. It got a whopping 72% of the vote, more than 2/3 of you wanted to see that one first. So thank you guys for really making my effort into that one feel validated. That was the segment that definitely took me the most time to make for the video, and I know my brother was really happy to see that suggestion was the one that got the most votes, so thank you for that too. I'm sure he'll be happy to see this again. Now without further ado, here's the list. My biological brother Crabbag Jones says top 10 anime girls that should be incarcerated. This list was honestly really interesting to make because when I really thought about it, the anime girls that I hate the most haven't actually committed any real crimes. So as much as I'd love to put Ichika in chains and lock her in my basement. To order this list, I actually looked up some average prison sentences for each crime to calculate the approximate jail time each anime girl should receive. Now without further ado, let's begin.
I wanna kill myself. Well, you definitely should.
I love Yuri Yuri, and I love every character from Yuri Yuri, so it pains me to have to put Nana Nishigaki on this list where she belongs. But when you look at the sheer amount of property damage that she's caused with her explosions, including one that destroyed an entire school auditorium, she's looking at over $4 million in estimated property damage. And considering that she'd never be able to pay that off on a teacher's salary, she'd definitely be serving at least a 3-year minimum prison sentence for property damage over $1,000. Also, she's admitted to being in a quote-unquote forbidden relationship with the 15-year-old Rise Matsumoto, but there's no hard evidence that they've crossed that line, so I'll give her a pass there.
How's it attached anyway?
Oh, it's just wedged in there.
I see. Sorry I asked.
Chika Fujiwara is another character that I love, from a show that I really love. I especially love playing her in Roblox Anime Battle Arena, but her documented attempt at bribery could land her a minimum of 15 years in the slammer. Politicians really are all the same, aren't they?
Tell me what you gonna do now. Keep rolling, 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 rolling on. Keep rolling, 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 rolling on.
Breaking and entering, Class E felony stalking, and even some extortion thrown in there for good measure. Raphael Answer Shiraha is looking at an expected sentence of over 18 years in prison. Being an immortal angel, however, I doubt any amount of time in prison would change her actions towards Titania. Please no bully.
What are you wearing that for?
Oh, those pesky patriarchal societal demands were—
Shut your fucking mouth!
I don't think I could count on both hands the amount of times Luko has committed indecent exposure in broad daylight. On top of this, she's guilty of breaking and entering as well as attempted seduction of a literal child. So my conservative estimate is that she would receive a total sentence of around 40 years in prison. Not that an all-powerful dragon would stay confined for too long, but we're not basing this on the amount of time they're actually in the prison. I could have went the lazy route and just filled this list up with a bunch of yanderes, but I didn't want to be repetitive. So to make this list a yandere really would have to do something to deviate from the typical tropes, and what the fuck, Yukako is insane. Yukako's stand really makes her stand out, and with kidnapping, torture, and attempted murder on her resume, that puts her at an estimated 50-year prison time or 2 consecutive life sentences.
Don't you have any luck finding strippers to join our club?
Oh boy, I have been waiting far too long to rant about Haruhi Suzumiya. Even putting aside the supernatural torture she unwillingly inflicts on those she calls friends, she very willingly commits numerous cases of sexual assault and extortion, and even goes as far as to drug people for personal gain. I'll probably get around to making a video essay about how terrible the second season of Haruhi is, but for now I'll just slam Miss Suzumiya with a prison sentence of around 80 years, and that's only for the crimes she commits voluntarily. When it comes to redo of a healer, everybody talks about what a terrible person Kiarga is, and that's completely true. But I want to take a moment to acknowledge just how much Flair actually got what was coming to her. After kidnapping Kiarga, participating in drug trafficking, and committing multiple instances of the R word, Flair would receive an incredible sentence of 100 years in a perfect world. That being said, I think the punishment Kiarga went with is a little more fitting. Dogakobo, I love you. But what the fuck is this? Miyako Hoshino, also known as Miyane, is guilty of luring Hana into her home with sweets and taking unsolicited photos of her in basically every episode of Wataten. This is a classic true crime scenario, and with 13 episodes of Wataten should land her a cumulative prison sentence of around 195 years.
For me, my personal goals is to win championships. I want to be the greatest of all time, And that's just my mindset.
Prostitution is, by all accounts, a misdemeanor crime, so a prison sentence for it typically won't be too heavy. However, if you look at Chizuru Mizuhara's diamond profile, you can see that she's been rented out a minimum of 159 times. And with the maximum prison sentence of a prostitution misdemeanor being around 1 year, this will put her at over 6 consecutive life sentences. And no, I didn't just put her on the list because I'm a card-carrying member of Team Ruka and think she'd finally be happy if Chizuru just got out of her way. Why can't the blue-haired girls ever win, man?
Ugh, fine. I guess you are my little pog champ. Come here.
Alright, most of these entries have been jokes, obviously, but I want to get a little serious with this last one. I haven't even watched Kill la Kill, but everyone should know by now that Ragyo Kirin is one of the most twisted anime characters to ever exist. Global terrorism, political corruption, and manipulation that resulted in her company accounting for 100% of the world's apparel sales. Torture, confining and experimenting on her infant daughters, indecent exposure. Numerous counts of sexual assault, including those against her own daughter. Attempted murder. Successful murder. There are so many crimes under her belt that it's impossible for me to come up with a prison sentence that could quantify the sheer malice of her actions. Again, this list isn't including how long said character would actually stay incarcerated, because if it weren't for Ryuko, she likely would have succeeded in her goal of dominating humanity. Ragyo Kirin is the most evil anime girl that I can think of, and her sadistic repertoire is one that can leave an impression on those who haven't even seen the source material, and easily puts her at number 1 on this list, cementing her as the anime girl that should receive the harshest punishment possible. But since she's white, she'll just get a year of house arrest and community service. You know how the courts are.
Social comments!